At the time of me recording this video, the Vancouver Canucks have done nothing. I'm recording this at 12:40 a.m. Sunday, September 27th. This video will be uploaded in about 12 hours from now. So if this video is completely outdated and there are some moves that happen between now and the upload time at 12 p.m. at lunchtime here on September 27th, then I apologize. But today we're talking about a Vancouver Canucks decor that has not changed. It hasn't done anything. But we're talking about this so far because we have some rumors going on mentioned on Vancouver radio as to some guys who may indeed actually be able to come home. And plus an offer sheet idea too. Can't forget about that. So, we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks decor that is facing some uncertainty right now. The big name on D that everybody is saying, okay, we don't know what's going to happen with this guy. We don't know if he's going to come back, if the Canucks are going to re-sign him. It's Chris Tanev. Everybody kind of knows that. We've made our few videos over the past few days talking about how the Pittsburgh Penguins, apparently they really want Chris Tanev if he goes to free agency. The Canucks have not been extending any of that love to Chris Tanev because one of their main priorities right now is to move money in order to do that first. And it's also getting Toffoli signed, apparently. Something like that. But Chris Tanev is a right-handed defender. And the way this Vancouver Canucks decor is shaped up, we have ourselves two right-handed defenders who may not be back in Troy Stecher, who is an RFA, and Tanev, who is a UFA. And we have some left-handed defenders that also have their name in jeopardy as well. Guys like Oscar Fantenberg, because he is indeed a UFA too. Big ups to Oscar Fantenberg, who honestly exceeded the expectations of what was given out to him when he came to Vancouver a year ago. Then we also have Jordy Ben, a guy on the Vancouver Canucks who actually doesn't have a contract expiring. He's a guy who everybody in Canucks Nation kind of knows just is there, but he wasn't really all too great. But the fact is, Jordy Ben is owed $2 million for the next season. And he was a healthy scratch for a lot of these playoff games. Let's face it, for a guy playing on probably what is one of the easiest roles on the Vancouver Canucks, at least one of the most sheltered at least, third left-handed defense. You're behind Hughes and Edler for crying out loud. He just really wasn't all that great, especially towards the end. I will say, as a guy who also loves the Habs, and I watch the Habs too, Jordy Ben was better in Montreal, straight up. The guy that played under Marc Bergevin and that the Vancouver Canucks signed in the offseason, yeah, they're not the same guy for some reason or another. But that's kind of the reason as to why people are bringing up Jordy Ben as a potential trade candidate. A guy that the Canucks can maybe move out for a pick or two, or maybe as a sweetener for some other deal. Move out money to make room to sign some of these other guys they have as their RFAs and UFAs. Stecher, Virtanen, Gaudette, Mott, McEwen, Toffoli, Tanev, Markstrom, Levo, you get it. But what exactly happens if some of those guys end up leaving? We saw that Jim Benning said earlier that he feels that Jalen Chatfield and Olli Juolevi, some of these guys could potentially play in the NHL next year, some of them even full-time. But this is where the rumors start coming in, because we had ourselves some ideas brought up on the media that I wanted to bring onto the channel here. The first involves a local boy. It's Washington Capitals defender Brenden Dillon. And we also have ourselves Tampa Bay Lightning defender Erik Cernak. Take a look at these tweets over here talking about what was said on TSN 1040. These are both from Taj. Again, big shout-outs to Taj for tweeting out what actually goes on in the media and talking about it on Twitter. Both the Moj and Rick Dhaliwal said that Brenden Dillon would love to play for the Vancouver Canucks. And we also had another radio hit earlier this week from John Abbott talking about the same Brenden Dillon. He actually mentions Dylan DeMello as well, but that's a completely separate topic. But Brenden Dillon is a guy who, in my personal opinion, a guy who isn't really qualified to talk about anything, I honestly just don't really see the need. Brenden Dillon is indeed a guy from Surrey, so he is a Vancouver boy. It's kind of why they said he wants to come home to the Vancouver Canucks. But he's 29 years old, coming off of a 5-year deal where he was getting paid $3.2-something million a season. 6'4", 225 pounds. He's a big guy. But this is the kind of guy who, if you sign this guy in free agency, you're getting another Myers situation. Maybe not to the same extent, but in the same vein. He's 29 years old and a free agent coming off of a 5-year deal. You think this kind of guy is going to come over here and expect a 2-3-year contract? No, this is the kind of guy who's going to be here expecting 5 or 6 years. Because he's already 29. He's going to retire off the next contract that he makes. It's not even like he's a guy who really deserves that anyway. Take a look at his point production, 22 points, 14 points. Not really all too spectacular, especially in coordinates with what it would appear to be his ask. Because to me, if you want to get rid of that Jordy Ben that we talked about earlier, replacing him with a Brenden Dillon who is going to cost as much, if not more money, is not the right solution as to how to manage this team. Especially if you want to keep Tanev, Toffoli, Markstrom, Stetcher, Virtanen, Gaudette, McEwen, Mott, Levo, all those guys. Okay, you're probably not going to keep all of them, but you get what I'm talking about, right? Brenden Dillon to me is not a guy who I would want to have on this team just because the timeline of his successful period as a hockey player, it does not align with how the Vancouver Canucks are going to go forward. I would rather much have Olli Levy on an entry-level deal coming in here and playing 82 games. Yeah, I said it, 82 games. This is a guy who I think is legitimately very strong. But we also have another defenseman that people have been talking about as to whether or not he could be a Vancouver Canucks target. Not on the UFA side of things, but the RFA side of things. Take a look at this tweet over here talking about what Thomas Drance said on 1040's Rink Wide show. He said this about signing Lightning defenseman Erik Cernak to an offer sheet. Whether it's the Canucks, whether it's another team, someone has to do this. It's the biggest no-brainer of my lifetime on the offer sheet front. And the reason he says this, Thomas Drance is a very smart hockey guy. He literally worked with an NHL team for a few years before coming back and becoming an athletic guy. Erik Cernak is a guy who is playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's a right-handed D-man, so he's not on that same left side dilemma that we had with Brenden Dillon. He's also a big guy. He's 23 years old, and he is not having a contract next season. But the problem is the Tampa Bay Lightning also have a few other RFAs. There's a reason why we've made videos talking about whether or not Mikhail Sergachev or Anthony Cirelli could each get offer sheets too, because these guys are all RFAs. They're all good players, and the Lightning have only $5.3 million in cap space. So if you're in a position where you have yourselves what is a free agent to be, or a restricted free agent, and Erik Cernak, a very legitimate NHL caliber D-man, whom, I'm going to be honest, I've been watching him every game since the third round of the playoffs, I really think he's a good player. He's solid, he's not flashy, he does the right play, he gets the puck out, he's able to find guys, he can wind up when he wants to, he can shoot when he wants to. He's just a capable guy. And to me, if you're in a position where the Tampa Bay Lightning are cap-strapped, they already re-signed and shelled out the big bucks to Sergachev and Cirelli. If you can get an offer sheet out for this guy, it makes sense. Now, I saw a lot of people talking about, oh, if the Vancouver Canucks try to do this, how can they do that? They don't have the picks. They don't have their first because that's sent over to New Jersey. They don't have their second because that's sent over to LA. How is this going to work? Well, here's how it's going to work. Because the Vancouver Canucks, if they make an offer sheet, if any team makes an offer sheet, you can make an offer sheet after the 2020 NHL draft. Meaning that the picks that you give up in an offer sheet scenario are going to be for next year's draft. Easy solution. If the Vancouver Canucks keep all of their 2021 picks, their first, their second, their thirds, their fourths, etc., then they're good. They can do it. Now, it's just a suggestion from me personally, building off of what Thomas Drance said on TSN 1040, but I really do like the idea of a Cernak offer sheet. This guy's legitimately good. And if you have a scenario where you're not able to keep Tanev, you're not able to keep Stetcher, I mean, that's probably not going to happen. You're probably going to be able to keep at least one of them, I'm not sure. I'd like to have Cernak as that top four guy, playing behind what is a Tyler Myers, and I can't believe I just said that Tyler Myers would be a number one D-man on the right side here in this team. I can't believe that. But even if the weird scenario comes out where we don't end up keeping Stetcher and Tanev, if we're able to get a Cernak, then hey, you still have Brogan Rafferty, a guy who a lot of Canucks fans were saying, hey, give this guy a chance. He is so good at producing points at the AHL level. Let's see what he can do in the NHL. So, here are a few ideas talking about some Canucks D-men. We talked about Brenden Dillon here today. We also talked about Erik Cernak, talked about some ideas mentioned on TSN 1040, and I want to hear your opinions as well. If the Vancouver Canucks are in a position where they trade away a Jordy Ben, they free up a spot on the left side, would you want to see Brenden Dillon fill that hole? Or would you be like me and say, no, just give me Olli Levy, please? As for the right side, talking about Tanev, talking about Stetcher, none of these guys come back, and you have to build your team up from free agency, whether that's the UFA pool or the RFA pool. Would you go after a Cernak? Tell me in the comments what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And Bye.